So thank you for joining me this afternoon. I'm hoping everything else will go smoothly. If you were here last week, you will know that I made a complete and utter pig's ear of things. We ended up with 3 separate videos, and I did manage to join them, to cut off the really bad bits at the beginning or the end of them before I uploaded them to YouTube, and I also cut it off and put them back on Facebook. But I couldn't work out, at least I knew how to, but I couldn't stitch them together. Memory issues, etc, etc. So instead there were 3 for last week, but never mind, lots of you stuck with me to the bitter end and I was super grateful. So let me check the comments. Sandy says last week was good fun. Your idea of a good time may be different to mine, Sandy, but I'm very glad you see it that way. Thank you. And Sandy says if my voice fades you'll just have to listen harder. Excellent. Kay is saying hello. Hi Kay, it's lovely to have you. Thank you for joining me. So yes, so I've made a couple of changes this week. I have got the world's longest extension lead in my craft room. That may be an exaggeration, but a very, very long extension lead. So I've now got things plugged in the other side, and I'm hoping that that means that I'm not going to knock things, which is what was causing the problem last week. I was clumsy and things were in the way, and I was obviously completely failing to work around them. So let's hope things are better this week. All right. So today I'm going to be working with the Flowering Fields suite, which is a new set of stamps and dies and papers and pretty things in the new catalogue. Before that, I'm just going to give you 1 or 2 notices and tell you what's happening in the Stampin' Up world, what's been happening in my world. I'll do what's been happening in my world first because there's not very much. I had my outing of the week today. Actually, no, that's not true. I've had 2 outings this week. I did run a class on Monday morning, my Fancy Fold Cards class, which was lovely. Really nice to sit and craft with some lovely people. But then my other outing of the week was to the post office today. So if you had ordered a Heart and Home sweet sampler, that's on its way to you. I will be emailing to confirm that after this. So so I've done that. I've also returned well, 3 in the end, parcels that came to me. I ordered something online. They sent me the wrong thing. So I told them they'd sent me the wrong thing. They apologised profusely and resent my order and sent me a paid label to send the wrong thing back. So then my second parcel arrived and they'd sent me the wrong thing. They'd sent me the exact same wrong thing. So that wasn't good. So I sent them a strongly worded message, and anyway they expedited it and it's arrived today and they have sent me the right thing, but I had to take all these things back to the post office. There were 8 items and then they'd sent me them wrong twice, so that was 16 things, and so that that was my post office trip. Never mind, worse things happen at sea, don't they? So Mary's here. Hi Mary. She says she hopes that she doesn't have last week's freezing issues, but she did watch later. Yes, I hope not too, Mary. It's really annoying when that happens. I did check the recording afterwards and the recording wasn't freezing, which means it was something your end. Sometimes that just happens. I get it periodically on Facebook Lives when I try to watch them on my iPad. I find I can watch them on my phone perfectly okay, but if I want a bigger screen and go to my iPad, it freezes and I have no idea why it is, and then all of a sudden after a few weeks it will sort itself out. It doesn't appear to be anything to do with updates or anything else, so I can't explain it, I'm afraid, but I hope everything will be okay for you today. Andriana needs to buy her husband a birthday card. Oh, the shame. A card maker who didn't make her husband a card. Never mind, Andriana, you've got to do what you've got to do, and it's more important he gets a card than you get it to him late, a handmade one. So I do understand. I am that card maker who is up till midnight making the birthday card or the anniversary card for my husband the next day. So yeah, I am the world's worst at that, so I completely understand. Sometimes life just gets in the way, doesn't it? Sometimes I find I don't have inspiration. If I'm making a card for a particular person, I really want to make the right card for them, and if inspiration doesn't strike, then I end up against the wall and I just have to make a card. All right, so in the Stampin' Up world, Celebration is continuing. We're almost at the end of the first month, which means we're halfway through. So if you had any things that you wanted to get during Celebration, make sure that you have that on your radar and you don't leave it till too late when they've potentially sold out. My last order this month will be going in on February the 11th because I am taking a break. So I'll say that again. My last order that I will be placing for customers will be February the 11th. And when I'm back at work, Celebration will be over. So if you want to place a qualifying order for Celebration, make sure you get it to me by the 11th. Of course, after February the 11th, you can order in my online shop at any time, day or night, 24 hours a day. And you'll find that at sallybowman.stampinup.net. So you absolutely can order right through to the end of February and get your Celebration goodies. I just won't be able to place those orders for you. I'll be reminding you about that, but that's kind of a little bit of advance warning. There are going to be some new things available from the 1st of February, which actually we would have got a little bit sooner, but they got stuck in a container somewhere. So that is a set of markers and stamps and dies and papers, and I will show you those in a minute when I put the camera down on my desk, because I've got some pictures of, I don't have them all myself, but I have got pictures of everything to show you. And I told you last week that the new Horizons paper has arrived, and mine has now arrived in my house. I was so excited, I can't tell you. So I thought I would just very quickly flick through that to show you, those of you that haven't got any yet, because it is absolutely stunning, and the pictures in the catalogue don't really do it justice. So without further ado, I am going to find a post-it note, which are on the opposite side of my desk to normal. And cover you over, move the camera and come back to you so you can see my hands. So this will hopefully stop any motion sickness. Let me just alter my settings so everything is hopefully round the right way. I'm hoping the sound will still be clear when I've moved this. I'm not quite sure which part of my phone the microphone is in. No doubt I will have to do a little bit of fiddling around in a moment to make sure that you can see what I want you to see, and it'll take a minute for my iPad to catch up before I can see. So I will just keep chatting so you know I'm still here, and then hopefully, oh there we go, and that actually does not look too bad. The angle's a little bit kind of uphill, I know, but that I can't get it angled down any better without things getting a little bit topply, and I don't want anything to go wrong today, so I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Right, I'm just going to have some tea. Sandy says still sounding good. Brilliant, thank you so much, Sandy. That feedback is really helpful. You probably can't see, I'm drinking tea from my Polish mushrooms cup. If I finish it, I'll show you. My sister went to Poland a couple of years ago and brought me back a cup with mushrooms on it, and all the names are in Polish, so I've no idea what they are, but it's very pretty. Okay, so this then is the Altogether suite. I've managed to get things, let me just move that cable, managed to get things around the right way so you can read them. So it's all about people, and it's all about celebrating togetherness, I suppose you could say. So there is a stamp set, a set of dies, some papers, and a big selection of new stamping blends. These are the alcohol ink markers. And then on here there are some photographs of some projects they've made. I may be able to actually lift that up so you can see it a little bit better. Very easy for me to end up completely out of shot with this. Let me see if I can bring that up a little bit higher for you. I have to kind of bring it, I have to work in 2 dimensions when I bring it towards you. So there we go. That's not too bad. So there we go. All right. So the stamp set has a whole series of images. It's got 2 people linking their fingers together. It's got this, which is, I can't do it very well, I don't have very good hands, but it's like putting your hands together to make a heart, and obviously you could put something behind that showing through. That's really, really pretty. There's some sort of sun rays here, which obviously could also become a background pattern. There's a heart, and then there are quite a lot of words. There's I promise, love changes everything, every act of kindness changes the world, we'll get through this together, and you matter to me, So really, really nice words. And then the die set cuts out both of the images with the hands. It cuts out the heart, and then you've got two sets of words. It also cuts out here for you, and it cuts out you matter. So that's really nice. The patterned papers are all black and white, which means that you can colour them in whatever colour you like, using whichever colouring method you like. So you can use your markers, you can use ink blending brushes, you can use Stampin' Blends markers. And there are some with images of hands on there, and there are lots and lots of black and white patterns. So these go with everything, not just these particular stamps. And then finally, the natural tone Stampin' Blends. These are specifically designed so that you can colour realistic figures of people in all kinds of skin tones, which is fantastic, and it's something we very much need to have. But they are also brilliant for all kinds of images. They're lovely to colour in animals, so think deer or bears. I'm trying to think of all the animals we've got in the catalogue. Rabbits. They are also fantastic for tree trunks and plants and leaves. There are all sorts of things where you're going to want a selection of these colours. So they range from kind of pinky peaches right through to quite dark browns. And you can either get a pack which has got all 10 in, or you can buy them in pairs as you would normally buy the Stampin' Blends. And you get a light and I say a light and a dark. They're actually not a light and a dark like our conventional ones. So let me grab a pair of my blends. Here we go. So this is Just Jade, and this comes with a dark Just Jade and a light Just Jade. But these markers actually come with a pink base and a yellow base of each. If you know anything about choosing foundation, those of you who are ladies and you buy foundation for your faces, or men, come to that, why wouldn't you wear foundation if you could? If you're buying foundation, you need to know whether your skin tone is a pink base or a yellow base. Mine is a yellow base. If I buy a foundation that is a pink base, it looks peculiar on my skin and I will never get one that matches. So I need one with a yellow base. So these markers are exactly the same. So this set here, for instance, they're calling light. So that's light skin tones. And there's one with a pink base, one with a yellow base. Then there's medium light, and again, one with a yellow base, one with a pink base, and so on through medium, medium deep, and deep. So that's the thinking behind those. And they're lovely. I've got those markers. They are really, really nice. So I will be bringing this information to classes, and I'll be putting it on my Facebook page, and you can also find it on my website. They're available from the 1st of February. You can buy the stamps and dies as a bundle or separately, but the stamps, the dies and the papers are only available while stocks last. The Stampin' Blends will be appearing in the new annual catalogue, which comes out in May. So those are going to be available for a long time, but nothing else will. So if you look at those and you think, oh my goodness, I love those, then get them now. If you get the bundle of stamps and dies, that is $45.75. So that means that you can also choose a celebration item for free with them. And obviously you can buy all sorts of other things in combination. But that's just to let you know about all together. Right, I'm putting that out the way. I've just seen a comment. I think it was Belinda, yes. Belinda's been beavering away in her studio this morning. So she's only just been out for a late lunchtime dog walk, and she hopes that everyone is well. As far as I know, everyone is well, Belinda. Thank you for joining us. It's a lovely day for a walk, I must say. Right, I promised to show you these absolutely gorgeous New Horizons papers. I will flick through very quickly, but I just want to show you because a photo in the catalogue doesn't do them justice. So these have just come into the warehouse now. I think they are probably flying off the shelves. Quite a lot of them have flown into my home. It's 6x6 paper, and there are 12 designs with 4 of each. So there's a lot of variety, and they are all watercolour designs. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm just going to quickly flick through and then I'll turn them over and show you the backs. Now you can use these as they are, or you can cut them down. I mean, this needs pretty much nothing else doing to it. Look at the detail on that. Lots of them you can imagine what they are. So you could see this as sea and trees, or you might see it as marshland with mountains. You can use your imagination. But they are absolutely gorgeous. A lot of them, it actually doesn't matter which way up you use them. This is another one, I think it doesn't actually matter which way up you have it. Alright, let me turn them over and show you the backs. So these are going to be great for creating all kinds of scenes. They're lovely for background paper. If you have the Grassy Grove dies, then you really don't have to do anything but do some die cutting and lay it over the top. But these would die cut into flowers. They would make beautiful layers. The watercolour scenes you can stamp on to create beach scenes or mountain scenes, lake scenes, all sorts. And they are just absolutely beautiful. I don't have the words to describe these. They are so lovely. So there you go. So you get 4 of each of those patterns in a pack. That's the New Horizons paper, £10.75 for a pack. If you want it, I would get on and order it, because I have a feeling these are going to go out of stock. I could be completely wrong. I'm sure Stampin' Up will have known that they're going to be immensely popular and will therefore have ordered lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. But with the way things are at the moment, if there's something you like, get it sooner rather than later. I'm trying very hard to get this cable out of the way. I don't know if I can or not. Still a little bit in the way. Okay. All right, so the Flowering Fields suite. Let me quickly show you what you get in the sampler, and then I promise I'm going to do some crafting. So it's a big suite. There are 2 stamp sets and 2 die sets in it. And what I've done is all the kind of the consumables, the things that you would use up, I've put together smaller samples of them into a pack for you. So you don't have to buy a whole pack of each colour of card. You don't yet, at least, have to buy a whole pack of paper, although I'm pretty sure that once you've started using it you will, because it's gorgeous. And you've got little bits of embellishments and so on. So the Flowering Field Suite sampler then, this is available to order until the 25th of February. So you get 6 sheets of A4 card, Pumpkin Pie, Highland Heather, Pool Party, Petal Pink, Pear Pizzazz and Poppy Parade. So these are all colours which are featured in the paper. You get a 1/4 of a pack of paper, which I will cut like this, so it's 6 inches by 12 inches. Now these have mostly tulip designs on them of varying sorts, and there's also a polka dot one. And then on the back we've got a grid. We've got a couple of them with sky patterns, a couple with these lovely watercolour washes, and then one with a pattern over a watercolour wash. So those are absolutely lovely, really lovely. You'll get a 1/4 of a pack of brushed brass butterflies. Let me lift those up. These are really sweet. Hoping I can get them so the light's not going to get interrupted on the cellophane. There we go. I think that's okay. This cable's really annoying me. Let me... Okay, that's slightly better. And 2 meters of the window pane check ribbon. And then so you can get started making cards straight away, I've added 5 white note cards and envelopes. These are pre-scored so you can get on and make some cards straight away. So that's the sweet sampler. If you can collect it from me, that will cost you £11. If you'd like me to post it to you, it'll be £13. That will come to you second class post in a board backed envelope, so everything should travel fine without getting damaged. And 25th of February is your last date to order that. If you would like to order one, you can drop me a comment below, or you can email me. Belinda says she loves that paper. That's what she's been working with this morning partly. Lots of potential. That is true. Right, I'm just going to pop this pack over on my other table. All right. So I'm going to show you just a few samples with this suite, and then I will get on and do some making with you. So last night was a crafting evening organised by my team leader. So a lot of us got together online and did some crafting, and we were using these things as well. So some of these come from that. So that's a Mother's Day card. There is a Happy Mother's Day stamp in one of the stamp sets that comes in the suite. So you've got tulips to stamp, and these images layer on top of each other to make beautiful stamps. The words in this are beautiful. We've got Happy Mother's Day. You are so thoughtful. Thank you. No one deserves a happier birthday than you. Love you so much. Just thinking of you today. And let today be the start of something new. So that's the Happy Mother's Day on there. Then with this one, I've used, as you can see, some of the patterned papers there, as I have on here. And I've used the Tulips dies. So there are 2 sets of dies, as I mentioned. The paper tulips here were cut using some of these dies. I've also used the Simply Marvellous paper, which comes in the Celebration catalogue. And then there is also this long die here, which is what has cut this layer here. Let me tuck those back in there. Move those up there. If you saw me during the catalogue launch week, you'll have seen me stamp this one. So the second set of stamps allows you to stamp tulip fields, and there are lots of landscape elements in that as well. So I used this one and this to stamp my field of tulips, and then I've added other images from the set. And then finally there is this, which apparently is called a spanner card. Now I was looking at it, we did this last night, I'd never heard of a spanner card. I was looking for some kind of toolbox in there, but apparently it's not that kind of spanner at all. Or if you're watching this from over the pond, what you would call a wrench is what we call a spanner. But no, it's called that because one of the panels spans either side of the card. So that's why it's called a spanner card. So when you open it up, you've got an extra panel in there. And this one here spans the 2 side pieces. So that was quite a fun card, and lots of places to put some of this beautiful patterned paper. So there are just a few samples. But let's get on and make some more, shall we? Right, what do I need first of all? So this one, I haven't actually made one up to show you. I'm going to make it as we go. But I wanted to make one of these long cards that are very fashionable at the moment. So rather than a standard kind of C6 card, I'm going to make a long one because I wanted to use one of these beautiful long envelopes which are in the new catalogue. So the envelopes measure just over 8 3/4 inches by almost 4 inches. So if you're going to want to make a card to go in them, you can make a card which is 8 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that will fit inside the envelope. They've got a beautifully shaped flap. If I lay that down, you can see here that's been shaped, and then they are printed inside. So they come in a pack of 15, so you get 5 each of 3 colours. Let me just pull out the other colours to show you. So there's smoky slate, and there's white, and the white has black printed inside. So these are lovely, I think, and I thought excellent. I haven't made many of these long cards because it's finding an envelope that will fit them, but this is really lovely. So I cut my card base from soft succulent card, and I cut it at 8 3/4 by 7.5 inches. So 8 3/4 by 7.5 inches, and then I've scored it at 3 3/4 inches. So that gives me an 8 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch card. Right, let me just pull my other bits out of my box. Okay, so I'm going to layer up Blackberry Bliss card with a piece of this beautiful patterned paper. I love this one. You've got this kind of perspective effect of the tulips, and it gets wider and wider as it comes to the bottom. I've got some ribbon here. This is the soft succulent satin ribbon. It's really pretty. It's got a kind of a sparkle to it almost as well. So I'm going to pop that around my paper and fix it in place with a glue dot. It's quite a thick ribbon, so I'm not wrapping it all the way round and bringing the ends to the front as I normally would. That does save you on ribbon, but it does make it quite bulky. So I've just put a glue dot on either end of my ribbon, and I'm now going to use my grid paper to line it up and make sure that I get that on there straight. I always use glue dots when I'm working with ribbon to hold the ribbon down, because they're really strong. The glue doesn't seep through the ribbon, and also if I absolutely have to, I can peel that ribbon off and then reposition it. So now I've got my ribbon down, I'm going to glue down my panel onto the card. Oh, I've got a new container of glue here, so if I'm not careful, it will go everywhere. This is a little bit flappy, this paper, because it's quite a long piece, but I'm sure we'll manage. So I've cut this only 1/8 of an inch bigger all the way round than my paper is. So I've got a really, really narrow border on there. And now I'm going to glue that to my card base. So this is a very simple card. All I'm doing is taking advantage of that beautiful paper. And I've pulled the soft succulent colour, which is very much in the background behind all these tulips, to kind of act as my contrast. Okay, now I've made a label to pop on the front here, and the way I did that was I've cut a piece of basic white card. This is 1 inch deep. In fact, it's fractionally shy of 1 inch, just a little bit less than 1 inch deep, or 1 inch wide. And I'm going to use my, I can never remember the name of this, Lovely Labels Picker Punch. If you haven't seen this, this punches 2 different patterns into the end of a strip, and you can put differing widths of paper in there. 1 inch is the widest, and then you can go down 3/4 of an inch down to 1/2 an inch on there, and it just slides in. So if you've got it narrower, it will sit on the next row down, or it'll sit right in the base there. And so that's the one that I use. So slide it all the way in, and I've cut it just shy of an inch thick, because if you cut it exactly an inch, it's really tight in there. Even that one is quite tight. And then I do always just check on the back, because sometimes they slide slightly at an angle, but that looks fine. And then I just punch it, and that will then punch the end of my strip. Now obviously I could make that into a tag, but in this case I'm making a label. So I'm just going to slide it all the way in again till it hits the back. Then I'm just going to double check that I have actually got that in absolutely straight, and punch it again. And then I've got a really nice label that I can then stamp. And I used the "No One Deserves a Happier Birthday Than You" image from the Flowering Tulips set. I do really like that. So I'm going to add that on there with some dimensionals. And I'm going to make sure that they are right on the outer edges, because I want to make sure that that ribbon is pinned down. And it's quite wide, so I want to make sure that some of these dimensionals are actually touching the paper rather than just sticking to the ribbon, in which case that ribbon will carry on just bouncing. As always, I use quite a lot of dimensionals because I don't want this to kind of get squashed in the middle. Put this over to one side like that, and you can see it's pins down that ribbon nicely. And then I've got another piece of ribbon here. I wanted to tie a bow, but actually this ribbon is, as I said, quite thick. It's really kind of luxury ribbon, and if you tie a bow it makes everything really quite bulky, plus the fact that it's satin ribbon means that it does want to kind of go off and do its own thing and not necessarily stay in a nice neat shape. So instead I'm just going to tie that in a knot. I've left my ribbon scissors on the other table, never mind, let's just use these. I do have a pair that I just keep for ribbon, and so they are really sharp, because inevitably, even with a good pair of scissors, cutting paper and card does blunt them, but there we go, it's done the job. And then I'm just going to pop a glue dot underneath that to make sure that it stays in place. So I just picked that up on the tips of my scissors and just slid that into place there. And I'm also going to tuck one kind of inside the knot. So I'm just going to sort of pinch the knot so I've got a little loop, tuck a glue dot inside, because I've only tied a single knot because I didn't want too much bulk. So if I just slide a glue dot in there and then press it down, that will stop that knot from sliding open, which, because this is satin ribbon, it will want to do after a little while. And then for my insert, I'm just going to stamp Happy Birthday on there. The Happy Birthday I'm using for this is from the Special Moments set. This is the Celebration set. It's like a double reward, so for a £90 spend you can get this one for free. There are 21 different sentiments in there, so I'm pretty sure that whatever you want will be in there. It's a lovely set. I'm going to bring in my foam mat because they are photopolymer stamps. Try and get this nice and straight. I'm using Blackberry Bliss ink. And so far I haven't got any on my hands, which in itself is a minor miracle. If you've worked with Blackberry Bliss, I bet you find it's one of those inks that you always get covered in. Poppy Parade and Cherry Cobbler are the other two I always get covered in when I use them. I don't really know what it is, because there are other colours that are strong colours, but they don't seem to get everywhere like those two do. and then I've just got a strip of paper to add on there. It's actually from a different pattern. Is it, or is it? No, it is from the same pattern but just further down the paper. I should have stuck it on before I put my insert in, but never mind. I'm just going to lay it on there, mark with my fingernail where the edge of my insert comes, and just slip that off, and I think we can make that work. But do stick your strip of paper on before you stick your insert in, then you can just trim it exactly to size and it will be much easier than what I've just done. I've always got strips of paper like this where I've trimmed something to size, so it's nice to have a use for them inside a card. Just looking to see if there have been any more comments. Oh, Kay is saying yes please, so that's yes please to a sampler for you, Kay, is it? Thank you very much. Let me write that down. Oh, Belinda's saying it was the New Horizons paper that she was working with today, but she does love the Tulips paper as well. And Belinda also couldn't work out why it was called a spanner card, but she likes the design. Yes, yeah, I was definitely thinking, you know, toolboxes and DIY and things like that. So there we are. That's my first card. Really making the most of this beautiful patterned paper. And I think that would cheer anyone up. It would make a lovely get well card. Obviously nice for a birthday card. It would work for thinking of you. Mother's Day. Did I say Easter? I think I did say Easter. Okay, so that's that one. And then, of course, it will fit in my lovely soft succulent envelope and look very nice indeed when it arrives through somebody's letterbox. Right, I'm going to make a little bit of space. Actually, I could leave that for you to look at, couldn't I, while I have a bit of a tidy up. And I'm definitely going to clean this Blackberry Bliss ink off the stamp. Alright, so the next card, I have made one to show you, and then I'm going to make one that's slightly different. So I'll move that for the moment. There we are. The noise is off and me finding all the bits and pieces I need. So let me lift this up a bit for you. So I've used pattern paper in the background, and then I've used layers of die cuts in the foreground, and then added a label with a sentiment and a bow. So we're going to make a version of that. I'm just going to drink some tea first. So I have some different colours here because I think it's nice to see something done the same but different. So the die I used is the one I showed you earlier. It's in the Tulips Dies set, and it's this long die here. It cuts beautifully. For all it's a complicated die, and you might think, I wonder if that's really going to work. It cuts really, really nicely. So I've cut this 3 times from Pumpkin Pie, Basic White and Mango Melody card, all of which are colours which feature in the paper I decided to use. And then I've cut an Evening Evergreen card base. I'm just looking at that. I think I've forgotten to trim the width. Yeah. So I did this earlier today. I was making a card and I cut my insert to my standard size and it didn't fit. And I couldn't work out why. And then I realised that I had left my card at 8 1/4 inches, which is the basic A4 width. And I hadn't trimmed it to 4 inches, but never mind. Oh, so Mary's saying, what card and envelope did I use? She's still dropping in and out. Okay. Is that for this one, Mary? I'm assuming it's for this one. So I used Soft Succulent card. So this is Soft Succulent. And it measures 8 3/4 by, what did I say? I've got it written down somewhere. Let me measure that. 8 3/4 by 7 1/2. And I've scored it at 3 3/4 inches. And then the envelopes, let me find my catalogue and I can then show you. So the envelopes are in the new mini catalogue and they are here, page 87, and they're here. It's the slimline envelopes. So I hope that helps, Mary. Okay, so for this one, I've got a different pattern of paper. I've got an Evening Evergreen base. That's my insert and a piece of paper for my insert. And I've got these 3. I'm just going to poke out the last little bits of confetti. Use my take your pick tool. And these, a lot of them just drop out, but sometimes you've just got a few to poke out like this. But it's cut really, really nicely. There we go. So that's all the bits out. I did just put those in the bin. I didn't sweep them on the floor in case you were wondering. All right, so now it's just a case of deciding in which order I want to put these. And there's no right or wrong to that. Okay, I think I probably want the white in the middle. And probably the orange there. I'm going to use this ribbon and I'm actually going to put it round here. So yeah, I like that against the orange. So I'm going to pop these in this order. And I want to stagger my die cuts. So the top of these tulips is going to go on here slightly, or it'll be the white ones next. The top of the white tulips are going to be slightly lower than the top of those orangey yellow ones, like that. And the width of my die cut is wider than my paper. So that means that I can move it this way or that way just a little bit, so they're not exactly matching, by which I mean that flower there is not directly above that flower there. That's not wrong, but for me I'd just rather have them staggered just a little bit. So if I move that one that way a bit, and then I can move this one this way a bit. Oh, excuse me, coughing. And then that one a little bit further down again. And it's just a case of playing. I used pieces of card that were 2 3/4 inches deep. So I've got this spare bit here, but it's not all going to show. A lot of that's going to get covered over. And even this bottom one, I will end up chopping some off the bottom there. So I'm just going to start these so they're about the top of my ground, if you like, that those die cut tulips are coming out of is about halfway up. And I'm not going to glue down the actual flowers, I'm just putting glue on the solid section. There we are. So then I want my white one. And I'm going to stagger that slightly. So that flower and that one are diagonal, they're not underneath each other. And then I've just, let me lift this up and show you. I've just left a little bit of that solid orange card showing above the white there. And then last of all, I've got the pumpkin pie. And again, I've staggered it slightly. And now I can turn this over and I can trim off all this excess. There we are. And then the final step is just to neaten these slightly, and this is a kind of an optional step, but it's one I like to do because where I've snipped these at the edges, some of those tulips have got kind of cut down the middle. So I'm just going to snip them so I've got either whole flowers or little bits that look like leaves left, rather than tulips that look like they've been cut in half. So I'm just going through and neatening really. And I'm trying, that's a bit of a corner there. Flowers don't have corners really, do they? So let me just round that slightly. Okay, and then I'll do the same the other side. And in some cases there's a flower that's got 3 petals and one of them's got kind of chopped, and I'm just cutting away the chopped pieces, but I'm leaving the other 2, so I'm not leaving a really bare section where I've taken out a whole flower, but I'm just taking out the bits that just look a little bit odd. Like I say, you don't have to do this, you could leave them as they are, but I just think it looks slightly more finished if I do that. There we are. Try and show you that little section there which I've just trimmed. Don't think I can get it close enough, but take my word for it, I've trimmed those end bits. Alright, I've now got glue all over my grid paper. Let me just use my glue eraser and get off some of that, otherwise we all know what's going to happen, don't we? I'm going to end up gluing my project to my grid paper, and then I shall be ripping it off in front of you and trying to fix it, so let's not do that. Alright, so I said I was going to use some of this lovely window pane check ribbon, which I really like against the orange. So I'm going to bring this around the paper, and I am going to tie this in a bow on the front. And I'm just going to bring in my sentiment. I'm going to show you how I did the sentiment in a minute. But I'm just going to bring that in and just have a look at where I want to tie my bow. I think it's going to be here somewhere. So off to one side, although it isn't fixed yet, so I will actually be able to slide the ribbon a bit. So this ribbon is quite fine. I should have tied that up the other way. I'm sure somebody could explain to me why very often tying a bow upside down means that the ends end up where you want them. I just know that it's a thing. I don't know why it's a thing. So let me try that again. Shame, that was a really nice bow and it went right first time, except the ends were at the top instead of the bottom. Tweak that a little bit. It doesn't help when you're working with some of it on the reel. I just didn't want to cut the ribbon until I needed to because I'm frugal like that. There we go. Oh great, Mary, that was the information you wanted on that slimline card and envelope. Good. Now I'm almost certainly going to add a glue dot to that to get it where I want it in a minute and get it to stay there. Okay, yeah, that's going to work. Just going to move that slightly to the side. You can't see, I've just been slightly put off what I'm doing. My husband is home this afternoon and he's just climbing up a ladder outside my craft room window, which is not always a good thing. I think he's going to clear out the gutters, so let's hope he's being safe. I'm just watching him. He looks like he's fairly safe. He's not wearing a hard hat, but I suppose I have to let him off that. They badly need doing. We live somewhere, fortunately, where there's very, very clean air, but that means we get a lot of moss and lichen growing on our roof, and the gutters get very, very full with it all. And the leaves, of course, have been falling in through the autumn. In fact, we've still got a few leaves left on the trees that haven't come down, but most of the leaves are down now. And then I noticed the other day there is actually some grass growing out of our gutter, and I said to Russell, I'm really sorry, but you need to get up and do those gutters. You'll notice I didn't say I need to get up and do those gutters, but he's obviously taken me at my word. And there he is. Bucket and trowel in hand. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm now going to just pop a glue dot behind that bow to keep it there, and now I can stick this in place on my card base and everything will stay where I want it. I love the way those yellows and oranges pop once you get them against that dark green card base. All right. So I've got this little label to pop on here. I'm so happy to celebrate these moments with you, and then inside I'm going to put happy birthday. So let me show you how I did that. So this is a stamp which has been with us a little while now. It's called Many Messages, and it's one gigantic stamp. And the really clever thing about this stamp is the coordinating die. So this will cut out those many messages, and you will end up with lots and lots and lots, and I keep them all in little bags. Every so often I do a batch of them, and then I can use them on projects. So let me just show you what I mean. I'm using my Stamparatus for this. because it's a really big stamp and it's much easier to use my stamp positioning tool for this stamp. So I'm going to lay it down on my card where I want it to actually stamp. Pick it up on the plastic plate, the clear plate, and this now is going to work like my stamp block. So I'm going to lay the plate down. Let me just make sure you can see everything. I've got an ink pad under here just to support it, because I'm now going to ink that stamp by taking my ink pad to it and just tapping gently all over there. I don't want to flood the images with ink, but I do want to make sure I've inked everything. And then I'm just going to stamp as normal. And I can take as long as I want to press down this stamp, because it's not going to move, because my clear plate is locked into the hinged end here. So there we are. Now I have all those greetings beautifully stamped. It was very easy. I didn't have to try and pick up a gigantic block. I have problems sometimes picking up big things. I've got arthritis in my fingers. They don't always work very well. But Stamparatus makes it really easy. And then I could just take this across to my die cutting machine. And actually, let me just move those magnets, because the die wants to go and join the magnets. There we are. And I won't die cut it now, but I will just line up this die on there. I find the easiest way to line it up is to look at these there's little hearts and stars that are stamped. And if I check that those are lined up, then I know that all the words will be lined up too. And when I run that through my machine, it will give me a whole lot of little labels with messages on. It's absolutely brilliant. So that's many messages. You'll find it in the annual catalogue, not in the seasonal one. And there are actually 2 sets of stamps that fit this die, or 2 stamps I should say, because they are just one big stamp. 2 stamps that fit the die. It's so clever. And it's so handy to have all these little pieces to choose from. So that's just a couple of them there. I dug through my my selection earlier. So I'm going to put those on with dimensionals, or that one on with dimensionals. And again, I'm using 6. Some might use 2, but I'm going to use 6 dimensionals, because I don't want anything moving, and I do want sticky right to the edge of these on the same way. Amanda, hello. Amanda's joined us. She managed to catch me today. How nice to have you, Amanda. I've been having microphone issues, so I hope you can hear me all right. So that one is just going to pop on there. It'll help anchor the ribbon down. And there we are. Loud and clear. Excellent. I'm so pleased. And then for my insert, I've got one of those little scrappy pieces of paper that I just trimmed off. That will fit nicely. And then I'm going to stamp inside, and can't see the box. I know it's here somewhere. There it is. I'm using the Happy Birthday again from the Celebration set Special Moments. There it is. Brilliant set. Something for every occasion in there. I really love it. I've been using and using it. So I'm going to use Evening Evergreen ink again. Bring in my stamping mat. I've just knocked my catalogue on the floor. Did you hear that? I'm just going to lay that paper on there, because visually I want it to look centrally on that white area. If I stamp it without the paper in place, I'm probably going to go too far to the right, and then it'll look odd when the paper's on there. Okay. I'm using my grid paper again just to make sure that goes on there nice and straight. And then that can go inside my card. There we are, card number 2. So let me show you the 2 versions. The same but different. I've moved where the ribbon is. I've got slightly different depths here. That's simply because I used different paper. This one I wanted to show more colours. And then I've got 2 different sentiments, but both using that same many messages enormous stamp. So once again, I will clear the decks a little bit, leave you those to look at. And I'll bring in my last project of the afternoon. Which is this one. So I had to use a windmill. These are such beautifully detailed die cuts. And I have never seen the tulip fields, at least not yet. But I'm sure they look just like this. Lots of bright tulips and windmills scattered around. So that's what I'm going to make next. So I have a soft, succulent card base, and it's a landscape base this time. I've got a different pattern of paper to the one I used before, just because then you can see 2 slightly different versions. And this is cut from that piece where you've got this kind of perspective look of the lines of poppies coming out. And then I've got some die cut pieces which I used the Windmill Fields dies for. So this is the other die set in the suite, and it coordinates with this stamp set that I showed you earlier. So some of the dies cut out the images on here, and then other dies work independently, and it's those that I've used on my card. So there's 2 dies for the windmill. There's like a solid shape, and then there's a detailed shape. There's the windmill sails, and then I've also used this little border die, which is very, very sweet. So those are the dies I've used. If you're going to use these dies, definitely get yourself some of the adhesive sheets. This is what they look like. They're 6 by 12, I think it is. Yeah, 6 inches by 12 inches. And it's sheets of double-sided adhesive. They have backing paper on both sides. On one side, the paper is split, so it's easy to peel off. And that's the side I use. I peel it off that side and then stick it down to my card. And then I die cut it on the card side, put my die on the card, and then when I take out my die cuts from the machine, I basically got stickers. So you'll see me using those in just